you've played a really interesting role in the equine industry, and can you tell us a bit about it and what caused you to take this path?
I think it's an evolving role. I feel like I'm just hitting my stride for what I really want to be doing. I was raised in a horse training family and back east in New England. I live in California now, but the background was always dressage. That was my upbringing. I spent a lot of time in Europe training, but behind that, I always understood the value of the fitness of horses, just basic conditioning. And I felt like everybody was in a rush to specialize in today's world with whatever their discipline was. And just the basic conditioning needs of horses were being missed. So anyway, I set about writing a couple of books, horse exercise books, to help bring people's attention to this. And then I found your course at the University of Guelph and loved it. And just anything I can get my hands on, I keep studying. So now I travel around and I do clinics for all kinds of riders, Western, English, endurance riders, teaching them really just how to get their horse comfortable in their body and using their body well, which comes down to like us, making sure their mechanics are right and they're healthy and comfortable inside so they can move well outside.
And where did you hear about the Equine Guelph course, and what made you choose it?
I'm trying to remember if I might have seen one of your ads, because I write regularly for the Canadian Horse Journal, and I know sometimes you have ads in there, so it might have been there, or maybe I found it online because I was actively seeking some kind of immersive program that wasn't just geared towards vets, that lay people like myself could take. And it spoke to me, and I was intimidated, as you know, by technology. But I found the course straightforward and, very easy to navigate. And at the same time, I got a lot out of it. So I loved it.
And how has it helped you with your career goals? How have you applied what you learned in the exercise physiology course?
I think some of the main takeaways from that course were some of the timelines for developing tissue, whether it's bone or soft tissue, and of how long it takes and how that is different a little bit for particular breeds of horses. So that's kind of on a macro level. On a micro level, I remember some of the little things I learned that I'd never encountered in my life with horses, and was like, gosh, why have I not encountered that? So for example, one of them was just the higher concentration of fast twitch muscle fibers in the hindquarter muscling, especially in the bigger breeds like quarter horses and whatnot. And that really helps you understand how they're not designed to hold collection, basically. They're not designed very well, and it can be frustrating to train a horse, be like, God, what am I doing wrong? Why isn't this going faster? But starting to understand just their makeup at a physiological sense, it helps you choose the right exercises, apply the exercises. I think that was a big one. I remember writing my project for the course and coming up with how I was going to meet some conditioning goals for this warm blood mare that I was training. And it was like, okay, these are the exercises I'm going to use. This is how I'm going to increase the intensity, over what time period. Those were the types of things I took away from the course that I've just, I grabbed a football and I've just been running with ever since. And obviously some of the material I don't so much use in my daily life. It was very specific for electrolyte dosing and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But it is very helpful to have in the background, because sometimes I'll encounter a client that has a question that relates to some of those metabolic processes, for example. Mm-hmm. And I've referred many students, either some equine massage therapists who want to further their exercise knowledge. I've referred several students to the course. So hopefully some of them have taken it.
How did you feel about the course when you first started it?
On the advisory board was a person who I had, when I was a little kid in Vermont, I had ridden with and sort of looked up to her like she was one of my idols. And she was on the advisory board. And I remember, it was like a full circle, I was like, wow, like that's just neat. I should be taking this course, obviously, you know, it's like my foundation is in there. But I think because of that too, I felt like unfamiliar terrain, because I was kind of like, how do you interface with people that you're not in a classroom with? Like, how does that work? And so I think right off the bat, just recognizing a couple of names helped put me at ease a little bit. And I found the instructors quite responsive. In fact, when I would get comments back on coursework, I felt very similar to being back in university when you'd get a paper back and it would have, you know, be marked up with some comments. So that felt good. You know, I felt like, okay, because sometimes you can be like, do they know I'm out here in the internet world? And so it was wonderful.
What's the most challenging part of your job or involvement with horses at the moment?
I think in this moment, my answer would be feeling like I am picking the right thing to do with each horse and rider combo at any given moment. You know, sometimes, especially if I meet somebody in a clinic, let's say in Wisconsin, and I haven't seen them before, I can look at the horse physically, and usually that's where my eye goes because that's my passion. It's like, let's make this a better athlete because they're going to be more fun to ride, more comfortable. But sometimes, you know, there's a horsemanship piece where that horse is actually pretty troubled, pretty emotional, and we have to just start there. You know, I love to share my exercises with people, but we can't even get there if, you know, the horse has some deeper issues going on. So sometimes it's picking just the right thing, you know, and sometimes you can just put the horse and rider's mind on an exercise and everything else takes care of itself, which is very cool. And that always is really gratifying. Like, yeah, that was exactly the right thing for that horse and rider combo. So it's a big challenge. You know, you got two personalities, horse and human, you got the expectations, you know, you have all this.
What's your most rewarding part of your job then, or involvement working with horses?
God, you know, the most rewarding still is just creating horse that moves really well. The more you know, the more you realize there is to learn. You know, back when I was in my early 20s, I thought if I could ride, you know, a pretty decent intermediate dressage test, that's what I measured myself by. Now, if I can take a horse that shows up and they're like really short-strided on the hind end, or, you know, they've got this twisty thing they're doing with their neck, or whatever they have going on, they all have something going on. You know, if I can take that horse and within a few sessions just get them so comfortable in their eye and their body and have them moving out, walk, trot, canter, really comfortable, that to me right now, it's just the icing on the cake. So like I say, that's why I say everything's become simpler. It's not a small task though, but it's taking the time and doing what really matters for the horse, not so much for what I think would make me look good, you know.
Any take-home messages for others considering taking online learning with Equine Guelph?
Yeah, the take-home, I think, is it helps you, because there's so much information floating around in the world right now, which is wonderful, but you can sort of get into like a paralysis through analysis. You know, people can become confused. There's so much out there. I think what the classes through the University of Guelph help people with substantially is synthesizing it. They give you a game plan. They help you not only educate yourself more, but figure out how to apply that knowledge, because that's a big piece of it. You know, you can go to clinics and learn a ton, but then it's just whirling all around in your head, and you show up at the barn and it's almost like, well, how do I put this into action? And I think that the courses that the University of Guelph offers helps people come up with, oh, here's the next step, and then maybe this is the next step after that.